Would you like to bet $20 and win $100 at BetMGM regardless of your wager's outcome and get $100 in free wager bucks? Just go to wt.buzz/MGM for more details and find out if you're eligible for this amazing offer.
All right, guys, welcome in. Happy Thursday. Yes, it is definitely Thursday here. Can't believe it's September the 9th. Week 2, college football. It's in play, and we got a couple of games we're going to go over for you, and we're going to do it with, of course, 3 of the finest, most well-respected, just fantastic gentlemen. The accolades, they keep coming. Ralph Michaels, here it is. Teddy Covers in the house, and, of course, the legendary Dave Cokin here to help you guys navigate through a loaded weekend here in week 2, Ralph, of college football. First time we had a chance to see you here in a little while, so it is packed, a lot to get through. But overall, your initial thoughts of what we saw there in week 1?
Well, you know, we saw a bunch of unders. If you bet every under this past weekend, you've gone 65%. So, you know, are the defenses more cohesive? Did Vegas adjust numbers a little bit too high from last year? We'll have to see what happens. But, you know, I think both Teddy, Dave, and I all agree, you know, week 2 and week 3, when you're a handicapper dissecting box scores and looking at matchups, those are 2 of the strongest college football weekends of the year.
Yeah, no, they absolutely are. And Teddy, welcome back, my man. Always a pleasure to see you. Some of your thoughts from what we got out of week 1 thus far.
Well, I mean, when you talk about conferences that look bad out here on the West Coast, the Pac-12 had a rough weekend. You know, USC, UCLA with these statement victories. And the rest of the conference as a whole, very, very rough. Now, ACC is another conference that had a pretty rough opening weekend with many of the top teams having bad days. You know, whether it's Miami, whether it's Clemson, whether it's North Carolina. One thing that I look for when it comes to week 2, and it goes right into what Ralph was saying, how week 2 and week 3 tend to be the overreaction weeks. It's not like the Pac-12 stinks, not like the ACC stinks, and there may be some value on a handful of teams from both of those conferences this weekend.
That's a good point there. And Dave, my friend, what do you got? What do you got in store for us right now up at WagerTalk.com?
Well, first off, on as far as the week 1 stuff goes, I'm not really surprised that the defenses came out a little ahead of where they were at this point last year. Most of the coaches said, look, we're behind defensively. This is last year, because that's the stuff you need to scheme more and game plan more in the offseason. And they didn't have an offseason. Well, they had an offseason last year, but it was an offseason for practices and spring practices and getting players into camp. It was a mess. So the defenses figured to be a little improved this year out of the gate, and they have been so far. As for myself, I went 4-1 to start things off in college football. I'm number 1 all-time at WagerTalk college football net profits and win percentage. So happy with that. I've got a bunch of plays this weekend, 6 in all, a couple of best bets, and a couple of free plays as well. If you go to my homepage at WagerTalk, which is wt.buzz/DC, you will see those 2 free plays written up there, and hopefully get you some good information on today's show.
Absolutely, guys. A lot of different ways to make it a profitable week, college football, but we're going to start with one of the game previews here, and we're going to look no further than UT, the Longhorns, taking on Arkansas here, an old Big 8 matchup here, Ralph. How do you like that? An old Big 8 matchup here. UT taking on Arkansas. -6 is an open. 58.5 as a total. I guess Steve Carsey's going to stay around for a little while here, Ralph. What do you think?
Yeah, well, what do you know? Soon to be an SEC matchup, right? So, you know, that's around the corner as well. But, you know, this is one that, you know, I think we see an overreaction of the Arkansas game. Probably the most misleading final. They trailed 17-7 in the first quarter. They scored 21 points in the fourth quarter, including a touchdown with a minute to go to not only win, but cover against Rice, winning by 21 points. You look at the yardage, though, it certainly doesn't look like a 20-point favor, only having a 373 to 308 yard edge. One thing I do look at is, did Rice get fortunate with a few big plays, or were they able to drive the ball? And looking at first downs, Rice had a first down edge. So, I am going to look to fade Arkansas. Yes, Texas was excited to play their home opener with a new coach. They played clean. They didn't make some of the mistakes we've seen from the Texas Longhorns under previous coaches. I am a bit concerned that Texas was only able to run for 4.0 yards per carry and got sacked 3 times. Normally, you have a running back like Robinson, and their O-line wasn't supposed to be a real issue. ULL played very well early, so Texas is on the card. They're potentially a play for me. I lean with them. They're in the gray area if I get there or not, but for the show, a clear-cut opinion on the Texas Longhorns.
All right, UT it is. And Teddy, what did you see from these two teams that is helping you make a decision which way to go?
So I watched both these teams play last week. Certainly we talk about the Texas side of the equation. What we saw from the Longhorns was something we rarely saw from Texas in the Tom Herman era. And that's a clean game. They avoided the mistakes. They avoided the penalties. They avoided the turnovers. That's easier to do against a lesser opponent at home than it is to do facing an SEC foe on the road. And there's nothing to not like about what Texas did last week. They looked great. But last week was last week. This is my biggest issue. Number one, we've seen already money coming on Texas. The 6s are gone. The 6.5s are gone. You have to lay a full touchdown, which means that if Texas is going to win and cover, they've got to win by more than a touchdown in order for you to cover the number. But the issue that maybe the biggest issue I have, all right, the Arkansas side of the equation, all right, we've got a head coach who, A, knows what the point spread is, and B, is interested in covering point spreads. All right, and that doesn't happen very often in college football. Doesn't happen very often in the NFL. But for Arkansas, when you see in a situation they're up 14, they can take a knee, or they can make the alumni happy and punch in that last touchdown to go up 21 and cover the number. That's what they did. We saw that from Arkansas last year when they went 3-7 straight up and 7-3 against the spread. The interest in covering point spreads, it's fairly unique. You don't see a lot of coaches that seem that interested. Arkansas's got one, and that is why Texas is going to stay in the lean category, not in the bet category.
All right, good stuff there. And Dave, how about you? Were you impressed with what you saw from Texas there in Game 1?
Well, I was very, very upbeat with the Sarkisian hire. Sober Steve is a really good coach. Really good. I mean, look, we all know about what happened at USC. He straightened things out. Nick Saban gave him a job, first as basically an analyst, and then moved him to the assistant ranks, and he was phenomenal there. So phenomenal, by the way, that Bill O'Brien's not even changing the playbook, basically. They're just tweaking a few things in Alabama. They're basically keeping what Sarkisian put in. This guy is going to lead Texas back to the promised land. Okay, it was a great hire. Not that Herman was a horrible coach, although I think some might argue he was a better assistant than head coach. He'll get another head coaching job someplace, so we'll find out about that. But I really like this Texas team. I thought that was an impressive win last week against a quality team. ULL, I don't know if they're a top 25 team, but they're certainly a top 40 team. That's a good program they beat last week, and they did so impressively. Arkansas is not that difficult to game plan for. Jefferson, it's real simple. Keep him in the pocket. I'm sure they got enough of that out of the game film last week in the game against Rice. If you keep him in the pocket, he's not real accurate, and he can't use his legs as much. He's definitely a dual threat quarterback. So if you over pursue or let him get outside, he can do some damage with his legs. And that's what Arkansas is going to have to do here. Texas has one injury of note. The left guard, who is probably their best offensive lineman, looks like he's not going to play. But I don't know if that's that big a deal. I think Texas is an ascending team. I actually give them, I picked them to finish second in the Big 12 this year. I wouldn't be shocked if they win the conference.
Wow.
Okay, Oklahoma finds a way to blow a game every year, and that rivalry battle and down the road might be something special. I think Texas wins here by a comfortable margin. I made the game -11.
I got to get a T-shirt. Sober Sarkeesian, man. That is fantastic, Dave. Love it. All right, Texas it is, taking on Arkansas, guys. We're going to move on. Take a look at this Michigan and Washington game. This is going to be Saturday night, 8 p.m. Eastern time. 4.5 is an open. The total has come down from the open of 50.5. And I'm wondering, Teddy, is this just a complete overreaction from a total perspective of what we saw from Washington in week 1 here?
No, it might even be an underreaction to what we saw from Washington week 1, because Washington couldn't throw the football in week 1. There was no downfield passing game. And there were questions about how healthy they were. There weren't any questions. I mean, coming into last week, their top 3 receivers were all out, and then the number 4 guy got hurt and is now, by the way, I believe out for the year. He's out long term. We don't know for sure if the Longhorn, if the Huskies are going to have their receivers back this week. From early indications, they may not have any of them. And if they don't have any of their top 4 receivers, and they're going up against the Wolverines, and of course Michigan lost their best playmaker, Ronnie Bell, last week, who was a quick strike, big play touchdown waiting to happen. Washington's defense was fine in the opener. They lost the game because they couldn't move the football. Michigan's defense was fine in the opener. They won and covered in large part because Western Michigan couldn't move the football against the Wolverine stop unit. So to see the money come in on the under, I don't disagree with that. If I'm playing this total, it's the only way I can look.
Yeah, Dave, I mean, you got to be careful. I mean, how much of an overreaction are we going to see here, do you think, with this line this week before the game starts?
Oh, we've already seen it. We saw it in the number to begin with. Because if you go to the preseason rankings, you can make an argument Washington would have gone in here as maybe, a 2-point dog at most.
There were, on the look ahead, Dave, there were 3-point favorites.
3 point, yeah. The look ahead was 3. Yeah.
Washington I'm sorry. I meant that that way. I had Washington rated higher. I still do, because I don't make huge adjustments off 1 week. I don't overreact. But, there's the big but. Washington was really bad. Okay? And all respect to Bobby Hauck, who I think is a really good football coach and actually performed a miracle here in Las Vegas. He got the Rebels to a bowl game, it's amazing, okay? And he's doing a great job at Idaho, but they're not supposed to beat Washington. The Huskies were awful last week. And the one positional area that was the weakest on Washington going into the season was skill positions. Not great at quarterback, not great at running back, not great at wide receiver. The rest of the team, the offensive line is top-notch. The defensive line is borderline top 10. There's no weaknesses at all. Their secondary on defense is outstanding. It's one of the best in the country. So Washington was my pick to win the Pac-12. I'm having second thoughts about that because the offense looked really bad last week, and I can't put my money on them here. I would not bet Michigan here because I think I think you're just paying through the nose in terms of where the line is, and I'm not going to play a game where I think the value is completely on the other side. But even though I think Washington is the value side here, I'm not pulling the trigger on this game. I have to wait and see how they come out of that game. And look, I'll give Michigan credit for this. I think Western Michigan's a pretty good football team, and they shellacked them last week. The Ronnie Bell injury is very big, though, to Michigan. It might not show up a great deal in this game. It will over the course of the season. He is arguably the best football player on that team. Certainly the most explosive offensive player, and they'll miss him on special teams as well. So that Ronnie Bell injury is really big for Michigan. Put me down for a lean on Washington, but not a bet.
You know, Ralph, it's interesting, too, how ironic, right? The injury to Bell, the actual guy the kid that actually would have replaced Bell here is now on Washington with Giles Jackson who transferred in the offseason. So it's crazy. Timing is just is everything in this world. But what do you think? Is this a tough spot for Michigan? Maybe taking them a little too lightly, in your opinion?
Well, what the hell left is there to say after following Teddy and Cokin? That's the problem with having those two guys on the show. I mean, they cover everything. So I'll just tell a story. I followed Dave on WagerTalk today, Dave, and in the chat room, I know you had some technical difficulties because you couldn't hear. But after you hung up, Prez was looking in the chat room, and you have a fan base now, Dave, and they call themselves Cokeheads. So your fan club is called the Cokeheads. So hats off to you. I don't have a fan club. I wish I did.
I had a sandwich. I had a sandwich named after me at a restaurant in Rhode Island. They called it the Cokin Connection. That was during a time frame where the cocaine connections. They used that Cokin Connection. It was. I don't even remember what was on the sandwich, but it was pretty good.
It was a straw.
You know, when the name is legend, Dave Cokin, then you get fan clubs and sandwiches named after you. The only couple things I'll say is this: Washington did concern me, only rushing for 65 yards. They got outrushed 127-65. But guys, I was looking through Washington's game notes for this week. How's this for a surprise? They have 125 kids listed on their roster. Normally, you're divided in fives: true frosh, redshirt frosh, softs, juniors, seniors. Washington's roster this year, 108 of 125 players are frosh or soft. Now, we had super soft, so it's not quite that big, but they have 77 freshmen out of 125 players. That has to be one of the youngest rosters there are. So we're going to see some mistakes. We're going to see some bad play. We may not get to see that consistency, especially without their wide receivers. But, you know, while Michigan, to me, I can't bet Michigan because I don't want the overreaction, and I'm not going to fade Washington. This is an old system, and I don't have updated numbers, which for the TNA guy not to have an updated stat number is horrific. But teams that lose to an FCS program, their next two games, they covered about 63% of those games because you have such an overreaction after losing. I think there were, 6 teams that lost to FCS teams this week? So keep an eye on those and see if that happens. But I will not play against a team that is off a loss to an FCS opponent.
All right. Good stuff there. Good to know there, guys, as we continue to move on. And we'll take a look at NC State getting ready to rock and roll against Mississippi State here in this matchup. That's going to be 7 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday, guys. Opened up pretty much a pick of -1. NC State, the total with 56. And which one of these two teams impressed you the most, or did you like the most coming into the season, Dave?
Well, obviously, NC State. And they lived up to billing last week, albeit against a terrible team. But I have said in all the preview shows we've done, I really like this NC State team. And if Leary steps forward at quarterback and is a little more accurate, this could be a terrific football team. I like their defense. I think this is the best team Doran's had since he's taken over the reins there. Do we learn anything coming out of the South Florida game? Not really. South Florida stinks. I mean, they really stink. Okay, they're the worst team in the AAC. Even after the good teams leave that conference to join the Big 12, and who knows what they're going to bring in. That conference might disband. South Florida might end up in Conference USA or something like that. That's a bad program. So I'm not taking much out of NC State's obliteration of the Bulls last week. Nevertheless, it's still a positive. There's very little positive to take out of Mississippi State's win, if you want to call it that, over Louisiana Tech. Holtz blew the game. Okay, I mean, what the hell was he doing at the end of the game? He just flat out blew it because Mississippi State can't stop you. And all of a sudden he goes super conservative and tries to set up a game-winning field goal, which of course they miss. Drive the ball down the field. You might get in the end zone. He ain't his old man. Let's put it that way. His father would have put the ball in the end zone. So that was a lucky win for Mississippi State. And I keep on going back to something I said last year on Mississippi State, which is that Mike Leach's offensive gimmickry isn't going to work in the SEC. And they figured him out in a hurry down there. I don't know why they didn't in the Pac-12, but in SEC last year, starting like the second game of the season, you saw 8-man defensive. They were dropping 8 into pass coverage. Go ahead. You want to throw the ball 50 times a game? We're going to drop 8 into pass coverage. Good luck, especially with the SEC defenses that have so much speed. Well, NC State has kind of an SEC defense. They've got a lot of speed, and they've got game film to work on. I mean, Mississippi State's not going to surprise anybody with the game plan. Will Rogers is going to go out there and wing it all over the field 50 times, and he's a pretty good quarterback, but I don't think Leach is going to succeed with Mississippi State. I don't know that he'll be there longer than maybe another year or two, and then he'll go back to someplace that's less hectic, less pressure. He can win it at places like Washington State. He's not winning at Mississippi State. NC State should win the game. I think it's in the number. I'm not going to play it. I made NC State -4, so it's close. But to be honest with you, if it gets a little lopsided, I won't be all that surprised. The Wolfpack are the better team here.
All right, good stuff there.
And,
Ralph,
and the much better coach team.
Yeah, Ralph, there are few things that are more entertaining than a Mike Leach post-game press conference. The guy is he's absolute gold here. And you certainly, when you look at it from a coaching perspective in this game, are you agreeing with Dave? You got to look at NC State in this one on the road.
Oh, I do. Last week's Mississippi State game was the one game that I beat myself for not using La Tech. I mean, Miss State as a favorite, Leach as a favorite is just horrible. In fact, Leach is 9-18 his last 27 games overall against the spread. Obviously now in a dog roll, and you know the old adage is, are you going to play an ACC team as a favorite at an SEC foe? So, you know, there still is some recruiting level in there, but I look at NC State, and Dave talked about teams dropping back 6, 7, and 8. You know, the entire everyone goes to John Heathcote at Iowa State. He slows down Big 12 defenses because he started the 2-3-6 defense. The SEC teams jumped into it last year. Well, where's NC State's strength? Their offensive line and their cornerbacks. They have 4 cornerbacks at NC State that have combined to play 99 games. They're one of the few teams that can line up 4 cornerbacks and they can all play a number 1 or number 2 receiver. Huge edge against Mississippi State and the offense they play. So, you know, I look at them like that. You look at NC State's defense. They got thrashed early. They allowed 38 points per game the first 5, but that defense and everybody's back allowed 20.5 points per game the last 5 games last year, and again, got the shutout against an overmatched USF team. I'm not going to give them credit for that, but certainly we've seen an improvement in that defense. So we have better defense, we have better offense. Yeah, it's exciting to have 2 running backs breaking 100 yards, but again, that was USF. But I do think they have an O-line that can let Leary do play action like he did last week. So on NC State, no question. The lines climbed a little for me, probably to make it in the play mix. But again, another clear lean for me on the Wolfpack.
Are you that confident, Teddy, as well? NC State on the road. Still tough to win on the road in college here. ACC going to SEC. What do you think?
So literally, as we're recording this, in the last 5 minutes, we've seen, and literally, it wasn't at the top of the show. It's been in the last couple minutes. The screen's going black as we speak. Money's coming on Mississippi State. NC State from 2.5 down to 1.5 point road favorites. And I can understand some of it, all right? Certainly, Will Rogers was really good last week, all right? 39 completions, only 8 incomplete passes, all right? It wasn't his fault that the team committed 6 turnovers, 5 of which were lost fumbles, okay? Mississippi State, you know, didn't hold on to the football very well. That said, if La Tech's defense is forcing 6 turnovers against you, what's NC State's defense going to do? You know? But this is a type of game where you can predict these 2 offenses are going to move the ball up and down the field. It's a matter of who can break serve a couple times. And of these 2 defenses, I certainly trust NC State's defense a little bit more than Mississippi State's to break serve a few times. It would be the Wolfpack or pass for this bet.
Wow, all right, interesting stuff here with the line movement there recently, guys. But that is going to be 7 o'clock Eastern time kickoff there on Saturday. NC State taking on Mississippi State. Let's move on. One final game here we're going to break down before we get to figure out which of these games these gentlemen like. How about Missouri, Kentucky? Interesting matchup here, Teddy. I'll come back to you. Opens up at a 53 for a total. Kentucky laying the 4.5 here. Which one of these two teams impressed you more week one?
So Missouri didn't impress me at all. Missouri was lucky to beat Central Michigan in that game. And that game was closer than the final score would indicate. Kentucky did what they were supposed to do against a lesser foe, and that's of no surprise. And we've seen a big move on this total. Money coming in on the over in this ball game. And there's two reasons why. One, Missouri looks to have the makings. They look like an over team. That defense, again, Central Michigan moved the ball up and down the field on them in terms of defensive losses, in terms of recruiting ranks of the talent they have on hand. It looks like a suspect defense. One would think that they are going to give up points. That said, Eli Drinkwitz's offense, they're going to chuck the football around. They're going to play with some pace. But Kentucky has changed their stripes this year. They're a team that now wants to, A, play a little bit faster, and B, most importantly, they threw the ball half the time on half of their plays last week. And Stoops after the game is like, I've never thrown the ball so much in my life. I can't believe it felt like we threw the ball on every play. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make the offense less one-dimensional, throw the football around more, which is always good news for overbetters.
Good point there. Yeah, that was an awful lot of offense from both of those two teams last week. So, Dave, what do you think we're gonna see here from both of these teams?
This is a game where I need another week to digest some information on both teams. I did not think Missouri was good last week against Central Michigan. They did enough to win the game, but they weren't impressive offensively. Actually lost the stats in the game by a slim margin. Not that Central Michigan's a horrible football team, but they're not supposed to be able to play with Missouri, and they kind of did. Kentucky, I know what this team's personality's been the last few years. I'm not going to buy that they've changed their personality as a result of one game. And that was against an opponent they figured to be able to kind of try stuff against. I mean, it's UL Monroe. You can do whatever you want against UL Monroe. So if there's a game to experiment and maybe take some chances offensively, okay. Coaches don't change their stripes for the most part. I got a feeling Kentucky will go back to being Kentucky this week as they play in conference against Missouri, and that will be a more conservative approach offensively, rely on the defense, try and win the battle of field position, and that makes it tough to lay points. So despite the fact that Kentucky maybe a little bit ahead of Missouri on my numbers, I'm not willing to pull the trigger on them, and I really do want to see what Kentucky's approach to this game is, because I don't think you can draw much out of a game against UL Monroe.
Yeah, 45-10, 554 yards of offense there, Ralph. What are we going to see, you think, from this week? Is it going to be another high offense output for them?
Well, Sunday after they won and put up 45 points and 554 yards, I think it was the first time I ever went to the Kentucky newspaper and saw a football story before a basketball article, no matter what month it was. So, they all of a sudden think, well, you have the new OC, Liam Cohen, he's from the Rams. You have the Penn State transfer quarterback, Will Levis. You threw for 300 yards for the first time since Tim Couch, I think. No, since 216 was the last time someone threw for 300 yards at Kentucky. So why are they excited? Well, I just want to bring up one other point on this game. They put up 554 yards against ULM. You know who put up 500 yards against ULM last year? UTEP, Georgia State, and Arkansas State. So putting up 500 to ULM means shit. It's nothing. So, let's not get too carried away. On the Missouri side, they rushed for 211. They broke some plays against Central Michigan. I like the under. I'm going to go against the line move. We have an SEC opener. Coaches are more conservative. They're not going to throw the ball around like they did. They're going to be more conservative with the lead, try to be 1-0 in the SEC. To me, again, I'm going to go against the line move, and I do like under in this game.
All right, looking like the under in this matchup. I love it. 6 of the last 7 between these two teams, by the way, have hit the under. That's Missouri, Kentucky. here, guys, getting ready to go off on Saturday. And I do want to just quickly remind you here that Ralph, Teddy, as well as Dave Cokin, plays are up, guys. They're ready to go here this weekend. Get those 3-day, 7-day, 30-day all-access packages. Never miss a play. You don't have to worry about it. And it's getting to be that point here coming tomorrow. You always want to get the best of it, and it starts by getting in the corner with these three gentlemen. Visit them at WagerTalk.com. All right, Ralph, I'm going to come back to you. Start us off here. Of these 4 games, is there one that you like maybe a little bit more than the others?
I like Texas. As I said, it's in the mix to be a play. And, Joe, let's remind people, Teddy, Dave, and I all talked about weeks 2 and 3 and how excited we are, and Dave off to another great start. $199 for anyone at WagerTalk for the rest of September for both NFL and college football. An incredible deal. But I will go on film, and Texas is my top play out of the group.
Ooh, all right, going UT. Sober Sarkeesian. We are definitely getting the rights to that, Cokin. I love it. All right, Teddy, come on, talk to us. Is there one of these games that you like a little more than the other?
Sure, let's talk about my alma mater, the Michigan Wolverines and Washington. I talked earlier in the show about how I think offense may be difficult to come by in this ballgame. The total's already been bet down. I don't know that it's been bet down enough just yet. Let's not forget the Huskies only gave up 10 first downs last week for all their offensive struggles. The defense was just fine. So Michigan, Washington, Saturday night TV under. I'm not expecting a high-flying, high-scoring affair.
All right, looking at the under. And Dave, how about you? Which one of these games tickles your fancy a little bit more?
Quick mention, by the way, and this is why you get the all access. I put a best bet out on Tuesday, and part of the reason I did it was this line's not going to hold, and it sure didn't, because it's been a 4-point move in that game. So that's why you get the all access, because if you're buying individual games, I guess you could have bought that one game, but what's the point of buying one game? Anyway, enough on that. I like Texas. I might be betting this team every week. I'm really impressed with them, and I think Sarkeesian is going to do a great job there. And Longhorn Fever, if it's contagious, I think I got it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what I'm talking about there. All right, Sober Sarkeesian it is. And guys, just a quick reminder here. Once again, Ralph had mentioned it, and it certainly bears repeating here, that $199, guys, NFL, college football, right through the end of the month, just $199. That includes all the 5% plays, too, that any one of these gentlemen may have from now to the end of the month. Absolutely the best time to do this. Get involved. Try it out for $199 every college, every NFL play for the rest of the month. Visit Ralph, visit Teddy, and, of course, visit Dave at WagerTalk.com. And that does it. Of course, hit that bell in the upper right-hand corner. Get notified every time we do go live here with these shows at WagerTalk. Hit that subscribe button to make sure you come back and join us again tomorrow. One final edition of College Football Daily before we head into the weekend. And on behalf of Ralph, Teddy, and Dave, guys, best of luck with your plays. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Would you like to bet $20 and win $100 at BetMGM regardless of your wager's outcome and get $100 in free wager bucks? Just go to wt.buzz/MGM for more details and find out if you're eligible for this amazing offer.